What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Hit the like button on your way in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's jump right to this topic. The NBA has a tanking problem. Now, we've seen teams tank before, but typically it's a 1 year sort of thing like the Spurs did to get Tim Duncan, or like the Pacers this year since they knew they wouldn't have their franchise player, Tyrese Halliburton, for the year due to his Achilles injury that he suffered in the finals. Also, the Pacers traded away Miles Turner, who was their starting center from last year. So without two of their five starters and basically key players to their finals run team, it's only expected that they will have a down year. And it's not an egregious thing for them to tank and try to recoup some talent to go into next year and come back strong as a playoff team again, and maybe in a couple of years, be back in the finals again contended. With that said, the tanking problem pretty much follows the format of something like what my Sixers did infamously in the early 2010s in a plan engineered by Sam Hinkie called The Process. Now, all my Sixers fans, we know what the process is, or was, I should say. And it was an idiotic plan to get rid of all the veteran players, try to get as much value out of them as possible in the form of draft picks, and tank your way to the bottom for multiple years, and try to land as many number one picks as possible so that you can draft franchise players in hopes that after 3 to 4 years, turn this thing around and all of a sudden be a team at the top, a contender. But see, the problem with that sort of plan is that it almost never works. In fact, I can't think off the top of my head, a time that it actually did work. Um, Another problem with that plan is that it looks bad for the NBA, especially whatever teams are doing it. It puts a bad product on the court, and most importantly, after a while, it alienates the fans. You try to sell the fans on this tanking thing, and for a year, maybe 2 years, they might be down for it because they know the value, or at least I hope they know the value of getting those top picks. But a lot of times teams just end up perpetually tanking because you're not guaranteed to get the number one pick even if you have the worst record. That's what the lottery's for. The lottery gives other teams a chance to land that top pick. So let's say you tank for multiple years, but 1 year you get the number three overall pick. Another year you get the number seven. Another year you get number eight. You never hitting that number one. Or if you do hit the number one, who knows? Maybe that player might turn out to be a bust. But either way, all of this losing doesn't necessarily yield fruit of drafting a successful guy that's gonna a success of successfully drafting a guy that's gonna turn your franchise around and hopefully other guys to complement that player. But anyways, due to the tanking that's been done this year, Adam Silver has come down hard on a couple teams for tanking. He's fined the Jazz 500K for their antics, and he's fined the Pacers 100K basically just for being bad. The Jazz, of course, I understand because they fall under that umbrella of the teams I've said before. You take for a multitude of years and you don't even land the top pick. The Pacers, like I said before about them, Pacers are in a gap year basically, and them tanking is just a strategic move of doing something productive basically in what's going to be a down year anyways. I'm pretty sure the Pacers fans understand that a year without Tyrese Halliburton isn't going to get them anywhere. And if they were to acquire, um, hit the lottery basically, and get one of the top three draft picks, maybe top 4 or 5. It says this is a loaded draft year, but let's say top 5. They get one of those top 5 players in the draft. They know that that player would be a great addition to the team and kind of have them right back contending within a couple of years. Anyways, that aside, those fines that Adam Silver doled out, those were short-term solutions. But what will Adam Silver's long-term solutions be? I've come across these 6 solutions that Adam Silver may be thinking about using to end this tanking problem. So number 1 was flattening the lottery odds. And my thoughts on that is okay. I mean, the lottery odds seem fine and well enough from my understanding of them, unless you want to decrease the number of teams that can be in the lottery or expand the number of teams that could be in the lottery. I don't see how it really changes much. Number 2, the 2-year lottery records, basing lottery odds on a cumulative 2-year record rather than a single season. Um, to me, that just incentivizes teams to tank for 2 years. Might as well dredge it out for 2 whole years. And I don't know. That seems like it's making the problem worse. Number 3, restricting draft picks on consecutive top 4 picks or top 4 picks after back to back bottom 3 finishes. So let me try to dissect that a little bit. Restricting draft picks on consecutive top 4 picks. Okay. And then top 4 picks after back to back bottom 3 finishes. So if you finish in the bottom 3 record wise, I guess, in consecutive years, I guess on the second year, you're not allowed to get a top 4 pick if you get a top 4 pick in the previous year. I mean, that does crush the thought of tanking 2 years in a row. Um, but I don't know. I don't. It's hard for a team to come up off of just one player. I mean, unless you get Wimby, and there isn't a Wimby coming out every year. Even Cooper Flag. I mean, he's a phenomenal talent himself, but he's definitely a. I mean, I would think he's definitely a franchise player. Coop, my boy from Duke, but he's not like a generational sort of talent like Wimby. There's levels to that. Um, I don't know. That one's kind of just a weird thing. Number 4, freezing the draft lottery odds at the trade deadline to stop late season intentional losing. Um, I think teams will just tank at the beginning of the season then. Number 5, player participation policy. So basically, making sure that teams play healthy players or face a fine as a penalty. This is kind of to combat like what the Jazz were doing when they was playing players for 3 quarters and then sitting them out the fourth, um, or all the times where teams may give a player a healthy scratch. Um, Obviously, load management is still a thing, so I don't know how you balance load management and player participation. Um, Thinking about that, it's just how can you prove that this player either doesn't need rest or if the player might be injured. Maybe he has a back problem. Maybe he has a migraine. Maybe he just has like a stomach flu. What else? Something like a pulled hammy. Something that you can't be like, oh yeah, well, he broke his ankle or he tore his ACL, an injury that isn't apparent. I mean, how can you prove that a player is and what you're going to bring in? Is the NBA going to bring in its own medical staff and evaluate every player that sits out? and make sure that they are absolutely hurt, or if they are older and or managing an injury to make sure that everything's on the up and up, how much money are they really willing to spend on that type of thing? I don't know about that. Um, Number six, restrictions on successive high picks. So this prevents teams from picking in the top four in consecutive years. We kind of had that in the other one. That was number three. um, or immediately after making the conference finals. And so this is like to punish the Pacers. Um, so how do you justify this if, let's say, Halliburton would have had an injury where he wasn't coming back from? Let's say it was even worse. Let's say he tore his Achilles so bad, or tore his hamstring off the bone, a career-ending injury. I mean, now since his team made the finals, they can't be in the draft lottery and pick in the top four the next year. I don't think that's sensible. Or what if you make it to the finals and one of your players, no, not one of your players, your star player, your franchise player, jump ship, or like LeBron does a lot. And in fact, think about KD. KD and the Thunder, they were in the conference finals, and the very next year, well, they I forgot what they did the next year, but he left the very next year. So what do you do when your franchise player leaves? What do you do if your franchise player has a severe career-ending injury, or even in the case of like Halliburton, your franchise player is injured and you know he's gonna miss the whole next season? Should you be penalized for that, where you can't pick in the top four? I don't think so. I think all of these are horrible ideas. Um, yeah, all of these ideas need to be thrown in the trash. Maybe flattening the lottery odds in some sort of way. I would have to see which way is flattened. But yeah, I think all of those ideas are trash. Um, and they could go in the garbage along with what's another idea? Now I'm just gonna think of an idea that I heard in media as I've been watching these things unfold, talking about this issue. Oh yes, I've heard people say that only a couple. Heard a couple of people say just allow rookies to enter the NBA as free agents, and that one is about as garbage as a proposal as any of these other ideas. Because for one, um, how do you enforce a rookie contract? Like, rookies are on a pay scale, so they can only get but so much money anyways. That's one. Number two, I mean, what's to stop me? Like, let's say I was a top prospect and I was a 19-year old. I'm from Philly. I was born in Philly. I grew up in North Carolina. And let's say the only two teams that I was signed to would be the Hornets or the Sixers. I mean, the Sixers is my favorite team. And I said, you know what? I'll only sign with the Sixers. And whatever they got available to give me, I'll take it. But let's say I'm like the best. I'm the top draft pick. I'm a generational talent. And I just want to go to my favorite team. So, and I'll sign to them for less. I'll make the money up later because I believe I'm that good. I mean, that would be crazy. And then on the flip side, you got places like, you know, the glamour places like LA and Miami. And, the way Dallas treats its players, I would think that a lot of players would want to go to Dallas. Then you got places where nobody wants to go. I mean, it's sorry to say. I mean, you don't think nobody thinks of you know, Cleveland or Milwaukee or Salt Lake City, Utah, as glamour destinations to pack up and live your life. So that so-called solution is probably the worst out of any. Anyways, give me your thoughts on this problem. Uh, Adam Silver, you have some work to do, dog. You got a tanking issue, which for me, it's not even really a big issue. I mean, as long as it's not my team doing it, I don't give a I don't give a f. As long as it's not my team. But I do understand that you want to make sure the product on the court is good. Um, I'll have my own solutions in the next video. So everyone stay tuned to that. Again, like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.